So, you've probably written a SQL query before. We've all been there. Select star from whatever. It seems pretty simple, right? You ask for data, the database gives it back. But what's really going on under the hood? What's the secret sauce that separates a basic query that just kind of works from one that works beautifully, efficiently, and at massive scale? Well, that's what we're going to get into.
And just so you know, this video overview is from the INEX team over on YouTube. They do a great job of digging into what it really means to go from just knowing SQL to actually mastering.
You hear this all the time, right? You see it on Reddit, on forums, and hey, on the surface, it feels true. I mean, the keywords select, from, where, they're pretty easy to pick up. You learn the basics in a weekend and you think, okay, cool, I got this.
But is it really that simple? Is that all there is to it? Or is there this massive, and I mean massive, gap between writing a query that runs and engineering a query that actually scales?
That's exactly what we're going to do right now. Let's peel back those layers. We're going to go way beyond the simple syntax and dive into the deep, hidden logic that really powers the world's most popular data language.
Okay, so first up, SQL, beyond the basics. We're going to talk about that leap from writing simple, everyday queries to tackling some seriously complex problems. We have to start here. This is the textbook definition we all learned. SQL, or SQL if you prefer, is our universal translator for talking to relational databases. It's how we ask for things, put things away, and manage all that data. Simple enough. But this is where things get really interesting. Let's talk about the real-world data gap. It's that painful moment when the stuff you learned in a course just completely hits a brick wall in a real job.
And this Reddit user, Economics Twist, just nails it. Real-life enterprise databases are orders of magnitude more complex. I mean, how true is that? Those neat little customers and orders tables from your learning course, they have almost nothing in common with the beautiful, chaotic mess of a real-world enterprise database.
And this is what that gap feels like in practice. Another user, Harvest3155, talks about a query hitting a table with over 125 million records. And you know what happened? People just accepted that it would take 20 minutes to run the report. 20 minutes! Can you imagine waiting that long? That's not a small delay. That's a serious business bottleneck.
So you've got this massive divide. In the textbook, everything is clean and simple. In the real world, you're wrestling with millions, sometimes billions of rows, incredibly complex relationships, and queries that can bring a whole system to its knees if you're not careful.
So, what do we do about it? How do you cross that chasm? Well, you've got to level up your queries, and that means opening up the Advanced SQL Toolkit.
A fantastic tool and a great place to start is with Common Table Expressions, or CTEs. You can think of them as giving a name to a piece of your query. They're like little building blocks that let you break down super complex logic into simple, readable, and reusable parts. Honestly, their main superpower is just making your code make sense.
Because without them, you end up with this. This is the before picture, a monster of a nested subquery. You have a query, inside another query, inside another query. It's a nightmare. Trying to figure out what this code is even doing, let alone trying to debug it, good luck with that.
But now, look at the after. See how a CTE just cleans that whole mess up? You use the with clause, and suddenly you have these clear, logical blocks. Here, we define North America sales. Then we define Europe sales. Then we put them together. It reads like a story, not like a tangled puzzle.
And listen, this isn't just about making your code look pretty. Yes, it's way easier to debug, but it also helps the database itself understand your intentions, which can help it find a much faster, more efficient way to get your data. And that brings us to the real magic happening behind the curtain.
To really truly get good at SQL, you have to understand how the database thinks. So let's pop the hood and take a look at how it actually processes our commands. Inside every major database, there's a secret weapon, an unsung hero, and it's called the Query Optimizer.
The optimizer is the brains of the entire operation. Its one and only job is to look at the query you wrote, analyze a whole bunch of different ways it could be executed, and then pick the absolute most efficient plan.
the one with the lowest cost in terms of things like CPU and disk access.
So here's the play-by-play. You hit run on your query. The optimizer instantly kicks in and starts generating several different execution plans. It's like, I could do a hash join here or maybe a nested loop. It estimates the cost of each of those plans, picks the cheapest one, and that's the one that gets executed. It's not just following orders, it's being smart about it. The absolute best analogy is to think of the optimizer as a GPS for your data. You tell it to destination, the data you want, and the GPS calculates multiple routes, right? It looks at traffic, road closures, and tells you the fastest way to get there. The optimizer does the same thing with your data. And just like a GPS works better with a clear, precise address, the optimizer works better with clean, readable code like those CTEs we talked about.
So when you put all of this together, the need for readable code and the reality of this optimizer working behind the scenes, you get to a whole new way of thinking. This is about the craft of SQL. It's a new mental model, and this framework is a perfect guide. Think of it as a pyramid. The foundation, the absolute most important thing, is correctness. Does the query return the right data? If not, nothing else matters. The next level up is readability. Can your teammates, or you, 6 months from now, understand what's going on? And only then, at the very top of the pyramid, do you worry about optimization. Now, you can make it fast.
Because once you master this way of thinking, you're not just pulling data anymore. You're not a data retriever. You're a data engineer. You're building the sophisticated operations that power analytics and create genuine, measurable value for your company. So in the end, you see, SQL is so much more than just a language you memorize. It's a powerful way of thinking logically about data and solving complex problems. So the only question left to ask is, what problem are you going to solve with it next?